All right, I want to try to find out what is the better or best defensive 22 WMR 22 Magnum load out of a 3-inch revolver. Now, if we were talking a 2-inch revolver or some other type of handgun that fires 22 mag, we might not consider whatever I find out here to be, the better round. But out of a 3-inch revolver, I do want to see what the better round is between the Federal Punch, the Hornady Critical Defense, and the Speer Gold Dot, because those are the three main defensive handgun rounds in 22 Magnum that are available nowadays. Now, there is a Winchester PDX-1 Defender, but that's kind of a seasonal run type thing. You don't see it very often. It may even be discontinued. And there is also a Winchester Silvertip that says it's optimized for handguns, and this stuff is nothing more than Super X ammo meant for rifles that they just marketed as this. It is not good ammo whatsoever. But in my experience, I've had pretty good results with these. The reason why I picked a 3-inch revolver in general for my 22 Magnum tests is because 22 Magnum, I did a lot of research on it, and what you saw in like 2-inch revolvers wasn't a whole lot different in terms of energy than a 22 long rifle out of like a 4-inch pistol. So I kind of felt like that was a waste for a 22 Magnum. And then when we go up to a 3-inch revolver, a lot of times you're adding as much as 50% more energy, which that's a lot more for an inch of barrel. And I felt like that was practical. And of course, even if you had the same energy, 22 mag would still be a little bit better because the bullet designs are truly jacketed hollow point ammo, as were nearly all 22 long rifle ammo is plated ammo. But still, I think a 3-inch revolver, it's really a better choice than a 2-inch when you're talking 22 mag. So I'm going to find out today, during the same weather conditions, air temperature, and all that, what's the better round, because sometimes I've had spotty results and I test something and I compare it to something else on another day. So on the same day, same gel block, we'll see which one does better for me. So I'm going to go through the chronograph, see what kind of velocity and accuracy I get at the same time. Then I'm going to hit my 10% clear ballistic gel block here. I'm just going to go into plain clear ballistics to see what the best potential is of those cartridges. And after that, I'm going to do more of a real world simulation where I have 4 layers of denim up here on the first part of this 3-inch block here that represents our pectoral muscle. After that, we'll have a 1/4-inch medium density fiber board right here to represent hitting ribs or sternum, and to the rest of the clear ballistics. We'll see how they compare that way in a more real world simulation. And then I am going to shoot up my steel to see what kind of practical accuracy I can get with these. So let's get started with this test. I'm about 6 yards from the target. First up, we have our Hornady Critical Defense 45 grain. Let's see what we get here. And that's why I'm 6 yards from the target. A lot of times these things just don't want to read correctly for some weird reason. Let me get another shot here. Critical Defense. 1200. 1200. No read. 1204. 1227. Pretty accurate. Case ejection's really good. Now next up, we got our Speer Gold Dot. Let's see what this gives us. A little bit lighter bullet, so it should be a little faster. Nope, 1202. 1200. 1216. No read. And I've noticed that I have the most error reads with these little 22 caliber bullets. I think it's just because there is a lot of unburnt powder in 22 mag, even when it's designed for a handgun. So it kind of obscures the readings a little bit. So next up, we have our Federal Punch here, 45 grain. Our Critical Defense was right there at about 1200 feet per second with the 45 grain. Now let's see what our Punch does with the same bullet weight. 1223, 1228, 1253, 1239. Now let me try to get one more. I think I have one more in here. No read. And that one I kind of pulled high. Case ejection was actually the best with that. That popped right out. So a little bit more velocity with our punch versus our critical defense, but our critical defense has that special ballistic tip plug, so that might make our performance a little better. But let's hit our ballistics shell block and see how these all compare. All right, so plain clear ballistics to see what the best potential is of these. We have our Hornady critical defense, our Spear gold dot, then our Federal punch in that order. So plain clear ballistics, here's our Hornady critical defense. All right, we have our Spear gold dot above that. Now here's our Federal punch. Let's go take a look. All right, so very interesting results here. It looks like our punch is different than the rest. What we have here is, it looks like good expansion with our critical defense and our gold dot. And our critical defense is on the bottom. It's got a lot of good damage in there. It continues a good damage. We have the plug that fell out right at the end here. We're at a penetration of about 13¼ inches. Sometimes camera parallax makes that look like it's not lined up with my finger, but it is exactly at 13¼ inches. Our Spear gold dot, it has very similar amount of damage. It looks like the critical defense has more real tearing damage, and the gold dot is more kind of bubbly in there. But what we're seeing here is about 13¾ inches. Now with our Federal punch, this is like what I was saying. If you see in the bottom there, these are tearing damages. That indicates you know, hollow point expansion. What you see up here is more bubbly, which indicates tumbling damage, and that's all we got because there's no bullet expansion. With our Federal punch, we have right there at about 20¼ inches. So not necessarily very good, because you know that it didn't do a whole lot of damage. It didn't dump a lot of energy or damage in there. And we look at our first 3 inches again, we just don't see any real energy dump. Our punch is just that little line on the top there. You know, these two down here, our critical defense and our gold dot, have a lot of immediate energy dump. So that's not looking good for the punch. So let's put on our denim and put in our MDF and see how they compare that way. All right, more of our real world simulation. 4 layers of denim and 3 inches of clear ballistics, 1/4 inch MDF to represent head, ribs, or sternum. Same order: critical defense, Spear gold dot, Federal punch. So here is our Hornady critical defense. All right, here is our Spear gold dot. And here is our Federal punch. Let's go take a look. All right, so what we're seeing here is that denim and that MDF definitely affected all of these. We have similar, just straightforward, you know, cut patterns in this first 3 inches here. We'll pull out our MDF. We'll take a look at this. It does appear that our critical defense may have started to tumble a little bit, but it honestly doesn't really look like it tumbled in that gel. It just kind of impacted kind of a little bit oblong. Our gold dot, straightforward. Our punch, basically straightforward, but it looks like it's potentially started to tumble here. And what we're seeing with our critical defense, I would say, has the most bullet deformation here. And it's facing forward. It looks like it truly cut in here. And we went to about 13¾ Our gold dot has a little bit of nose deformation. The bullet is backwards, indicating tumbling. And it looks like more damage, but again, that's a lot of the tumbling damage. It's not bad, but what we got here is about 14¼ inches. And our Federal punch, honestly, it looks more ideal in our quote-unquote real-world simulation. you know, we just went in straight here, no bullet expansion. Right about there, I decided to want to tumble and go up here, and we went to 17 inches of penetration. So when we look at our plain gel shot, our gold dot and our critical defense did what I would say is the best, and our punch didn't do well at all. It was over penetration, but that's not to say it would be significantly better if you had to stop a threat with it. It just, in this testing, it just doesn't look great. When we go through our more real world simulation, none of them over penetrated and none of them under penetrated, and none of them have anything that looks great for expansion. But if I had to go on the numbers alone, just looking at what I'm seeing with the way the bullets look, I would say our critical defense performed more ideally like a normal handgun hollow point should. It just went in straight, and I see pedals pulled back. I don't see pedals pulled back on either one of these. So when you're talking 22 mag, the differences are sometimes very minimal between what you're seeing. But one thing that is surprising is that the Federal punch had so much energy compared to the other ones, yet, you know, we don't see any expansion there. And our gold dot, pretty good expansion, but not when we hit the denim. Our critical defense, it performed the way it's really meant to. That plug is still in that front a little bit there, indicating it kicked out a lot of that denim and was still able to expand by that plug's pressure hitting back into the hollow point. So on a tactical note here, I think the win goes to the critical defense overall. And honestly, that's what I thought when I went into this test. I thought, you know, I think critical defense is going to win this one. And in my opinion, it did, but, you know, not by a lot. It's not like the others won't work. So let me shoot up my steel, see what kind of practical accuracy I get with these. All right, so here's a close-up look at these bullets here through plain gel. And what we see here with our critical defense, fantastic performance. You know, that looks like a mini centerfire handgun bullet, and that's really what it's designed to be. And it looks really good through our plain gel. Our Speer gold dot basically looks just as good. Very good expansion with both of those. Our Federal punch, no expansion at all. Doesn't look particularly good. Now when we look at through our denim and our medium density fiberboard here, yeah, very close with two of them here. Now here's our critical defense. We have one side pedal here that's really sharp and just a flattened nose. And that's not great, but that's not horrible because we got enough to prevent over penetration. A Speer gold dot here, very similar. We have one pedal that's kind of bent back, the other has a little deformation going on. But I guess if we look at the size of the pedal deformations and whatnot, there's a slight edge on that critical defense of having a little more cutting power going on there. And then much like through plain gel, we don't really have anything going on with the Federal punch with our medium density fiberboard. You know, the hollow cavity is a little bigger just from it hitting the MDF, but not great performance with that. So that's what you get looking at these close up. All right, I'm about 12 yards from the target, so I'm just going to pull up, see what I can do here practically with these rounds. So I have some Hornady critical defense first. Let's see what these do for me. All right, so I just popped off those first ones there and then went for a headshot. They seem to shoot fine. Speer gold dot. All right, not too bad overall. Now I have our Federal punch here. To load these ones manually. I only have one speed loader, which by the way, it's a Speed Bees. I know a lot of people are probably wondering what that is. Speed Bees brand loader, 6-shot LCR for our 22 Magnum. Very easy to load these things because they don't work on the way the traditional ones do. They have a spring going around, and the spring just holds it in. Click it in, and it holds it, and you can pull them out pretty easy too, which has benefits and disadvantages too. So Federal punch, see what this does. All right, so I think all of those get the job done. Let me back up a little bit and see how they continue to shoot for me. All right, so I'm at my 40-yard marker. Critical defense Got 5 of these left. Let me see how these do. All right, they seem to shoot fine. Spear gold dot. See how these shoot for me. You know, it's kind of hard to tell if I'm hitting or missing a lot of those times because it's so quick that I can't really tell. And we have our Federal punch here. So let me see how these do for me. 40 yards. I do notice about that is there's an uptick in recoil with our Federal punch. And you know, there's a reason why I do these tests, is because a lot of people tell me a lot of different things, and a lot of people go by other people's information. They don't really keep a lot of the specifics in, like what barrel length is used or whatever. And they'll say to me, this round or that round is terrible, but the Federal punch is the best round out there. Well, I've tested the Federal punch multiple times, and it could just be this run of ammo that I got, the lot numbers and all that, but what I saw both times was not good performance. The energy was there, the velocity was higher than the competitors, but it doesn't look like, you know, we're getting the same velocity, actually more than, let's say, critical defense of the same bullet weight, but yet the punch doesn't expand at all, and the critical defense does. So even if you said, well, it's supposed to be faster, when we look at being basically the same velocity and one is expanding and penetrating adequately and the other one's not, that's telling you something about bullet design a little bit there. Now our Speer gold dot, you know, that wasn't bad at all. You know, it's a pretty good go-to round for 22 Magnum. You know, if I couldn't get the critical defense, the gold dot would be the next one on the list there for what I would carry. But when we look at the overall winner here, in my opinion, the critical defense really has everything that you're looking for. It has that 45 grain bullet weight, which is heavier than a lot, but that's really what you want when you're talking a handgun and wanting to get good handgun ballistics. You're wanting to get enough bullet weight to get enough penetration, and you're wanting to get some expansion while you're at it. And in theory, the punch has all that, but it's just, for me, it's not doing it. And a lot of people will say, well, there's something wrong with your gel, there's something wrong with your test, there's something wrong with this and something wrong with that, when I test up versus like 9mm stuff. So coming out and doing it in the same gel block was really important to me, because if I get something's wrong with your, shut up. Look at what you saw side to side, same gel block, other ammo. I'm just not seeing it with the Federal punch. I think the best round out of a 3-inch revolver currently is going to be our critical defense, just based on what I'm seeing now, based on what I've seen in past tests, and I've got other boxes that in the past, and it all seems to do quite well. So that's what you get today. Take it for what it is. It's, I guess, a little bit of my opinion, but you know, some real world stuff going on here that you can see. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.